Hello. Sorry for the delay. In fact, I had trouble with my Wi-Fi network today, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to uh, get online on time. So thank you for joining me. Without wasting any more time, I would just go into what we want to discuss. Again, sorry for delay in start. Uh, it was just bad Wi-Fi network, but yes, I owe you for those 10 minutes lost. So today we are here to discuss about something called Amazon S3. Uh, Let me tell you, this is just a live session where we'll talk about AWS S3. I will have a follow up videos on my YouTube channel where you would be able to get more detailed uh, look about S3, both theoretically as well as practical. On YouTube Live, unfortunately, I cannot do a practical session, but that is something you can look forward to on my existing videos in YouTube and also in future. I would have this series where we'll go deep dive into S3. But now this is something for new starters. So what exactly is S3 to start with? We and what is before that, before jumping into S3, what exactly is Amazon Web Services? When Amazon provides cloud services, what exactly it is? It is just like you can think of Amazon cloud service, or for that matter any cloud service, is just a service that is hosted on a cloud. When you say cloud, it means it is hosted somewhere, which where it is hosted, it shouldn't matter to you as a service user. Service provider host it and make sure it is always available to you, and it is available across different regions, different countries, based on what you have subscribed. So for you it is abstract service, right? The service is available in cloud. You just go use it, and that's it. You don't have to worry about, oh, I need so much of CPU, I need so much of hardware, I need um, these few things, a lot of other things that generally you worry about. You don't really need to worry in this case, because you don't have to set up any server and all. So that is basically a cloud service. Now coming back into S3, which is our topic today, what exactly is AWS S3? Basically, by definition, if you look into definition, it is a simple storage service. So this is something you can just compare this to a file or a folder on your local box or your laptop. How do you store some data on your local box or your laptop? You create a file, right? Let's say you create a .txt file. You store it inside a folder. Why do you do that? You could just create files and store them in one, in the home directory or your C drive. Why do you create folders? Folder is just logical naming them, right? So you logically create those files, arrange them in different directories, but at the end of the day they are just files. You are just arranging them. So you have folders, you have files, and you store it using file on your local box, okay, on your laptop. Think of S3 as a same thing, but it is stored in cloud. Abstract thing for you. Okay, so you are going to, let's say you have a requirement where you need to store images or some videos for your website. You can store it to S3 and then access it from your website or directly whenever you require it. Now even here you would be storing it by folders, right? You will arrange it like front page, second page, third page, main home page. So you will create maybe different folders, right? So that is how you this S3, it's just a simple storage service. Now how does it differ from your example that we had taken an example of file storage service on your local PC, right, laptop. The difference is, on your local PC what you have is a file storage, while S3 or simple storage service is basically a object storage service. So it, on your local box the data is stored in binary form, while S3 offers, or the way it stores data is by objects. So it creates, it just thinks of in terms of objects. So everything that you store is an object. So it is just like key and value. If this concept is a new to you, you can think of it as everything that you store is a value, which is image, video, or something, and then you need to uniquely describe that object, right? So how do you do that? You need to create a key for that. For example, let's say you let's take the example of your local box or laptop. Okay, you are storing some file inside C directory. There is a folder, my folder, and inside that you have images folder, and you are storing image.jpg. Now what is the key here? It is really is it just file name? No, it is folder plus file name. So the key is C drive, my folder, sorry, images is your key, image.jpg, and the value is actual your image, right? So same thing goes with your S3. So your key would be a definite key that would be constructed for your object, okay, whatever you store, and value would be the actual object that you store. Now going forward, now you can actually have different versioning of your storage. Like for example, if you are storing your image in S3, you can version it. Let's say you are uploading a better version of your image or video, you can also, you also get a backup of previous version, so that if you want to restore to previous version or use different versions for different websites and those kind of things, you can always use this versioning. So versioning does come to your rescue in different cases. There are different use cases associated with versioning, but for now let's understand that you can version your storage. Okay, now one of the important thing that I would like to stress is Amazon is something that uses this for its e-commerce website. So it is not something that AWS says, yeah, we provide this, but they use it internally in their own sister company. So they have invested heavily on this, and uh, it is, of course there are other storage services that we'll see in future times, but yes, uh, S3 is one of that is really very good service. Amazon has really worked hard on it. They say they provide something like 99.99% of availability for this service. So if you are say storing something on Amazon S3, it is almost 100% available for you. Okay. So moving on, what exactly, now think of this, what exactly actually goes inside S3? You might say the actual data, the object. Along with that, what actually goes is the metadata. Now, how this differs from file storage or binary data is, what exactly goes in is, in addition to data, there is something called metadata that goes in. So metadata is nothing but information, or some how do you call it? It's like something that describes your that particular key or that particular object. It's just a information around that. Okay, so this is how your object is stored in S3, the data and metadata. Actually, it is a flat structure, as you can see, key and value. But logically, you can create hierarchy. At the end of the day, it is just a flat structure. But logically, yes, you can say I have different hierarchy where I am storing data. And now coming to the use cases of this, you can use this to host some static files or websites. You can just uh, upload your content to S3 and just host a static website uh, which picks all the data from S3 and shows it on the website. You can change the versions or the data in S3 and it will show up in your website. So that's how it is. And now this S3, since it is a storage, if you have heard of CDN, content delivery network across the globe, for your website or for your applications, you can use S3 as a storage in that case, and that is one of the use case that you will definitely use. uh, Moving forward, now there is a concept of something like a bucket in S3. So everything that you store in this simple storage service, it is stored inside a bucket. So you create a bucket when you want to use this S3 service, you need to create a bucket. And inside that bucket, you would be storing all your data. Now that bucket have some restrictions as with respect to how do you name that particular S3 bucket. So it needs to follow certain convention, DNS naming. So you cannot have some special characters and the length, and it needs to be unique across the globe. Now, one thing very important to remember, uh, maybe you can, when you do a deep dive further, you will encounter this or you will come across this is, though the bucket is definitely for a region, a particular region of your particular cloud, but the bucket needs to be unique across the globe. So you will be, when you are trying to name your bucket, your cloud provider, let's say AWS in this case, is going to check that and he's going to you will get a validation, okay, this bucket name is available. Otherwise, if that bucket name is already taken, you wouldn't be able to create a bucket with that name. So that needs to be unique. It is associated for a region, but you can use data from a bucket of one region across another region. That is allowed, but there is some cost associated with it. So it depends on use case how you want to use it. uh, Now recently, I think it was in 2017, 16 or 17, AWS enabled a default encryption for data in the bucket, the data that is stored in the S3 bucket. So you can enable that to have your data encrypted, so that whenever so that it provides you a very good security. Now, with respect to S3, I have already talked about the data durability. So Amazon is designed for 99.9999 durability. Security we just talked about. Availability is very high, it is almost available for you, and it provides, the way this is designed, object to way of storing data, object, and the data is stored in objects, it provides a very good performance. Now, before we go forward on looking at S3, the typical use cases I can think of is websites, IoT devices, Internet of Things, where you connect different devices together, mobile applications as a backup or disaster recovery thing. So S3 is really, really useful in that case. Uh, with respect to the types of S3, uh, now this is the second part. Now we have seen storage service, simple storage service S3 as an introduction. Now the second part that we are now going into is the different types of S3, different storage classes of S3. So S3 provides you different types. They are like standard IA, uh, Glacier. Without going into what exactly what names they are, why do we need different types of S3 storage classes or different types of S3? It is just for cost optimization and what is your requirement. There are two requirements with respect to storage, right? How frequently you need data. Do you need it every day, or do you need it just, let's say, once in a month, once in a year? Infrequent data access. What is the speed that is expected? Do you need, is it something that you have stored and you need it within 1 second? Or is it something that, oh, you say that I need this data and I can wait up to an hour for that data to be copied from some back tape, it comes to your local storage or local region, and then you can access it. Is that workable for you? Now these are different requirements, right? I can always go for online data, always available for me in 1 second, but the cost would be much higher as compared to where I am going for a solution which is like I need it just once a month or once a year, where I would like to do some, prepare some reports. So I'm fine with downtime, or I would say uh, time to access the data, like let's say 1 hour. After 1 hour, I create a request for data, and after 1 hour I get the data back. So, and it would be much cheaper in this case, right? So that's why S3 provides different classes, storage classes, and you can define what storage class you want for your data. Like, so you can store, let's say you can have one type of storage class for your one data which is frequently used, and for other data which is like used once in a month or year or 6 months, you can have a different storage class. Not only that, S3 allows you to define a life cycle. So you can define that, okay, this data that I have uploaded today will remain in this frequent use for 1 month, and after 1 month it would transition to infrequent storage, so that I would be charged much lesser than I was charged for 1 month. Now this would be a typical case, right? For example, your payment related data, it would be frequently accessed in your current month, but in maybe from next month you don't require it, or your stock, for example, you would require it very frequently in the month, but then history is something that you can wait uh, to access it if you are getting a better or cheaper uh, way of storing that data. Or for example, let's say you have archives. They are something that you might never use. You so you are fine with, but you just want to store them so that if there is a natural disaster, something goes wrong, you would like to recover that data. So you need it, but you know that maybe you have not never accessed it for last 2 years or something. So in this case you can go for a archival storage class which is like Glacier archival, which will store data for a very low price, and you will get a very good cost optimization, or very good with respect to your budget. Though the speed would be very less, but it doesn't matter to you, right? You are not accessed it for last couple of years, and you may not access it for next couple of years. Okay, it depends. If there is a disaster, you might want to. That Lifecycle policy is very important feature that I believe S3 came up with. You can just automatically transit your data, or uh, uh, have a kind of a data actually transfers from one type of storage class to other storage class. And with respect to security, you can actually define who can access your data. So you can define permissions and access levels for your different data storage. For example, your archive, you may define that, yeah, you nobody except administration would like to access that data. So you can define your permissions accordingly. And one of the things that I think we missed during our discussion so far is the replication feature. With respect to availability, it is very important feature. So your data is replicated across at least three nodes across region if you have taken that subscription, or in one region, depends. Generally I would say S3 is replicated across regions, so that even in case of some disaster happening in that region, your data is still available. And that's why uh, it is really something like always available, reliable service S3. Now, this S3 service integrates well with other services provided by AWS like Athena or something, so that for you, if you want to query that data in some report for some report or something, you can just write a simple SQL statement to access that data. So this S3, though it is stored at object, but you can still access it using some other AWS components like Athena and other things like Redshift, so that you can actually see different graphs across your data, so that you would be able to see what is happening with your stored data. So this is really good that it integrates with uh, other components provided by AWS. Now, one of the other thing that I would like to talk about is it's about your read write consistency. Now, this is one thing you would like to know, right? You have multiple threads coming in, writing the data, and there are a lot of other threads coming in who are reading that data. So, what is the read write consistency? What is that reader is going to see? So Amazon provides read after write consistency. So so by default, when somebody is writing data, your reader is not going never able to see the incomplete data. So once it is written, you will be able to see. Now same offers for your delete. So sometimes it is possible that you might see some stale data, but it would be complete. You will never see a corrupted data. So you might see a data which is being deleted, which is yet to be deleted, supposed to be deleted. So you might see a stale data, but you will see it complete. So that is very good with respect to Amazon S3. One of the feature that I personally like. Of course, you can fine tune it further. This is something you really need not worry when you are using S3, but just as an additional information. Now, with respect to clients who use S3, I can the first client we have already listed, right? Amazon itself. Netflix, Reddit, Pinterest, Tumblr, all these use S3, and there are lot of clients, thousands of clients across the world who are almost anybody using AWS uses S3. So S3 is something that is really good with respect to. Uh, for me, it's one of the. Uh, this is the advice that I kind of learned when I started learning AWS, so I can give that as an advice to somebody who wants to learn AWS is you can start with S3 if you want to learn AWS. That is the simplest service offered by AWS, and it has so many features that gives you a very good head start. So if you want to learn AWS, start with S3 and then proceed to other things. This is never a thing with respect to any tutorial you see on AWS. They have something like EC2, ECS, and all those things to start with, and then they proceed to S. Never do that. That is my, of course, a personal advice. Start with S3 and then proceed to other things. You will enjoy the journey. So this was it for today. uh, Let me take if there are any questions coming from the live chat. uh, yeah. Okay, so one of the question over there is, how do we decide uh, whether we want S3 in this particular region, which region uh, we deploy S3, or we decide that we want S3 buckets? Good question. I would say now this depends on your requirement. So let's say if you have list of users which are like in this, let's say in the US, you would like to have your S3 buckets in US itself, so that uh, the read access or the speed performance is really good. Having said that, you would like to distribute that across different regions in US, so that you get a better reliability. Okay, and you might want to have, depending on the cost and all, you might want to have a S3 bucket in maybe in a neighbor region of US, depending on how licensing and cost goes. So it really depends, I would say, with respect to regioning, where you store S3. Any more questions? Yeah, there is a question which says, okay, with respect to, can I have uh, two buckets? Uh, yeah, two buckets or more buckets by same name across region? No, that is not possible. As we discussed before, though your bucket is for a region, really, uh, your bucket name is unique across regions, really, across the globe. So you cannot have a bucket with same name. You create one bucket for a region, and then you went ahead and create another bucket with same name. Your AWS is going to error out it for you. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for today. We'll again meet through my YouTube channel. So stay tuned and have stay safe. Cheers. Have a good time. Bye.